Welcome to All In with Ali podcast, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I am so happy you are here. I'm answering questions today, and this is going to be a multi-parter because we got in quite a few, and they're good. Like every single one. Usually with these, there's some that I'm like, okay, we're not going to answer that just because it's too broad, or I don't know. I just don't want to. But every single one that I've seen are like damn good questions. So I'm fired up to answer these, and I'm excited for you to hear them because they're a really good mix of mostly business, but some personal too. So with this episode, I don't know how many parts we're going to break this up in, but we're going to spread it out some. So with this one, what I decided to do was I separated the business with the personal. So I think the first four that I answer in this episode are going to be business, and then the personal ones I'll put at the end just in case you don't want to hear those, because I understand that some people may not want to hear how I met my husband, which is one of the questions that I got asked, but I decided to keep them in anyway. All right. So here are the questions that I'm going to answer in case you're wondering, do I want to listen to this whole thing? Here are the questions that we're going to dive into today. The first one, how to be seen in a saturated influencer market. The second one, how to handle someone stealing your ideas, verbiage, and or entire business model when it's unique to them. The third question that we're going to be answering in this episode is how to hold high vibe energy when money isn't coming in for months. The fourth question and the last business question, this one's so good, is I have been feeling limited in what resources I can absorb of yours and of other people while doing what I aspire to do. I know that I currently do not have all of the answers, and I can see so clearly teaching what worked for me once I'm at the table with you, but I have a lot of fear around not wanting to absorb too much of other people's strategies so that I could one day teach my own processes in integrity. I'm not sure if this is a limiting belief or a valid reason to not get help from your resources or somebody else's that I know could speed up my own process. So she's basically saying, I want to work with somebody. Like I know that I need support, but I want to make sure that it doesn't compromise like her creative process with her own offers. Like she doesn't absorb too much of my process or somebody else's, which I think is such a high integrity way of thinking anyway, which makes me want to say like, well, I'm not even answering yet. Hold on, we'll get there. I got excited. Okay, so those are the business questions. And then the personal questions we're going to dive into, there are three of them. The first one are tips for transitioning from 1 to 2 babies. Not that I'm the person to talk about that, but I'll give it a go. The second one, favorite dress stores for summer. And she put in parentheses, wedding guest dresses. And then the third one is how did you and your hubs meet? I'm trying to break a toxic relationship cycle and seeing what looks like other healthy couples gives me hope. You said once you used to think you were too picky, and I relate with like 8 A's. Okay. I've got a lot to say there. So those are the ones that we're going to dive into today. So if you want to hear any of those, keep listening. Here we go. So the first question was how to be seen in a saturated influencer market. I want to point out first how you said saturated and not oversaturated. And I want to applaud that because there's no such thing as an oversaturated market if you know what you're doing and you bring something unique to the table. So how to be seen. What we're looking for when you are an influencer is we're looking for eyeballs. We're looking for engagement. We're looking for views. If you want to be an influencer, that tells me that you're looking for, a big part of your business model is going to be from clicks and sales from commissions, right? So with that, because these commissions typically are so small, or brand deals, depending on where you're at, they're going to get bigger. But in the beginning, they're going to be a little bit smaller. So for that reason, we need traffic. We need more people, right? So to be seen, we need to hold people's attention. We need to have some sort of angle that people want to tune into. And this is going to look different for everybody. So the first thing that I would recommend is follow or make a list of like your top 3 favorite influencers that you really like following, not just are popular with everybody or a lot of people, but ones that like you genuinely find interesting. Okay. Why do you find them interesting? What is it about what they do that keeps you following them and looking at their stories, and best case scenario, shopping with them? And I would pay attention, like who are you actually clicking on links? Why are you clicking on their links? Why do you trust them? What type of content do they put out? Looking at other people for clues, especially with influencing, is key, because it's all right there. Their strategy it's very, very clear why they're successful. There's nothing secret about it, especially nowadays. So I would start there, because what attracts you to them and what makes you want to shop with them is going to be what makes other people want to watch and shop with you as well. So I personally don't follow a lot of influencers because I just don't need to. I don't want to, it's really easy to follow too many. And then next thing you know, you're like constantly clicking on links and buying things, because some of them are so damn good at their job and they find such incredible deals, or they're so good at styling that it can be a problem at some point, and that was my case. There was one point I was following as many influencers as I could, because it's fun. And because they all so many of them do such an amazing job. And then I'm like, damn, I'm constantly shopping. This is not great. So at some point, I unfollowed a lot of influencers. And now I follow a couple of them, or a handful. And the main 2 that when I think of influencers that do an amazing job and who are absolutely, quote, being seen, I think of the 2 main ones that I follow. They are Loverly Gray, which is Brittany Sjogren, and I think it's Cella Jane blog, or Cella. I don't know if it's Cella or Cella. Forgive me. It's Cella Jane blog, and it's Becky Hilliard. And they are damn good. And I like these 2 examples too, because to me, what they do is similar, but also different at the same time. Let me explain. Because I feel like when I've worked with women who they want to be influencers, like that's their business model. So they need to create the brand and the strategy in order to do that. And I've helped women do this. And a common complaint that I will hear with some women is like, I want to do this. I want to style outfits, or, whatever the thing is that they want to put out into the world. But I don't want to constantly be oversharing, or I don't want to share my kids all the time, or whatever. And to me, both of these women do a really good job keeping people watching without, well, actually, they both share, in my opinion, at different levels. I feel like Loverly Gray shares more behind the scenes and more about her family and her day-to-day life than Becky does. Now, granted, I'm not watching both of these women like a hawk, but I've been following both a long enough time to get a feel for like their process. So Brittany, she definitely shares more about the behind the scenes and like her personal takes on some things. And she's, she has a really big team, and, her team. And she's like, talking about, she has her husband there. And I think she just shows a little bit more of the behind the scenes. While Becky, she is more content centered. She does show her kids. She does show her husband, but she herself doesn't like give opinions much on things. She doesn't share like it's very, very curated. She'll answer any question that you have, but it's very curated. So what I like about these two examples is like there's a good mix. And then of course I've followed influencers that share every single thought that's ever entered their brain on the internet. And then I've followed other ones that again are they don't show their kids at all. So the point in me pointing this out is to be seen, to be successful as an influencer doesn't mean that you have to give it all away or share every single thing or share your kids or be constantly in your stories, but you do have to hold the attention. So one thing that these two particular women and that any successful influencer does in order to be seen is their level of content. They put out really beautiful, high level branded content. They understand what their audience wants to see and how they want to see it. And they've just gotten really good at it. Now, I started following both of these women when they were already successful. So I don't know what their come up looked like. I don't know how they got started, but if I know anything about any business, I know that nobody comes out the gate being the best, right? Like everybody, it's going to take some time. So these women, they might have 1 million or I don't know how many followers. I think they both have over 1 million followers at this point. But they all started at one, right? They all had to build that audience and build that trust and build that credibility. And I know that if you were to compare what they're doing now to them maybe 3 to 5 years ago, it probably looks very different. So I don't want you to go to these people or anybody else and compare what you are able to do right now with what they're currently doing, because that's not fair. Start somewhere. But you need to understand if you have somebody's attention, you can have their sale. So how are you going to hold the attention? How much do you feel comfortable sharing? What's your shtick? What's your thing? What's your niche? I know with Brittany Sjogren, because she's been on this podcast before, and if you haven't listened to her episode, I don't know the number of it. Go find it. Just search Brittany Sjogren and Allie Reeves in iTunes and it will come up. It's a phenomenal episode. But I know how she got started is she had a corporate job at the time. So how she initially built her following was sharing her workwear and how she would transition work outfits to nighttime or, girls' nights or whatever. And that's how she built the name for herself. And now she has a much more rounded out brand where she shares all kinds of things with motherhood and building a team and house stuff and house decor. She shares a lot more now, but she got started with what she knew. Becky, she, I think, got started by sharing, like, she lives in this beautiful house, this like custom home. And I think she built a massive audience from sharing her process of building that and, what she chose and how she designed it and all the things. But she also shares clothes and her skincare and her kids' stuff too. So anyway, they both figured out what they were good at and what they wanted to share. And they built trust and credibility in an audience through that. Thus, they're being seen, right? They figured out what people wanted to see. So what's your thing? What are the things that you like talking about and you want to be consistent, right? Like if you go to their stuff, now they have teams and it's really, I wouldn't say it's easy for them to do, but it's easier for them to be consistent. But one of the things that Brittany shared in the podcast, in the interview that I did with her, was she understood the power of consistency, and it was just her. She didn't have a team. So she just, like, after work would sit down and make sure, like, she would post every single day and have, like, her outfit every day and, you know, put it on the blog. And she really started making a name for herself and built that relationship with her audience through her consistency. So that is how I would recommend being seen. There's not a limited amount of eyeballs or attention. It's just finding your thing and your way and double downing on that and being consistent so that your 100 views turn into 1,000, turn into what's needed to create a sustainable business as an influencer. Okay, so that is question 1. Question 2, how to handle someone stealing your ideas, verbiage, and or entire business model when it's unique. And I said that I would keep these questions anonymous, but I was so curious. So I went and I looked at this person's business because I was like, is it really unique though? And I went and I looked, and she's right. I've never seen what it is that she puts out. I think it's really cool. So if you're listening to this, I think what you do is really neat. And I am not even an ounce surprised that people are taking liberty with your ideas and making them their own. Not even close. Because that's what people do, right? That's what we all do. Anytime people see something that's working or an idea and it resonates with them, they're gonna, not everybody, but some people are gonna go and they're gonna try and do it too. So, few things that I would say to you is, number 1, you're on the right track, right? Anytime you put out anything, whether it's a business idea or model or a piece of content or anything that is done well, that resonates with a certain amount of people, it will always inspire people to draw inspiration from it. And sometimes when they draw inspiration, unfortunately, it can look a lot like or identical to your thing, even under the purest of intentions. And then in some cases, there are people who are just lazy and who are going to try and copy paste exactly what you're doing with the not most pure intentions. So the point is, this is something that we all need to be aware of, and not saying that we just lie down and let people do this. Like, if somebody is stealing your idea, there's a difference between somebody drawing inspiration from what you do and then people stealing intellectual property, right? So I have seen people, and you hear about this a lot, but like, I have had my captions on Instagram literally copied and pasted and used as other people's posts, or like they would take the whole thing and then maybe change up a couple of words. So it's the same flow, same idea, but maybe I would use energy as one word and they would change it to vibe and try and claim that as theirs. This is stealing of intellectual property. If you're an artist and people then, and you hear about this, where people will take people's art and take it without giving them credit. It's a really crappy situation. And in some cases, if it is your intellectual property and people are using it under their brand or especially monetizing, then you have every right to seek counsel and to take whatever action is necessary to make them stop. And in a lot of cases, you reaching out and just saying, hey, this is my intellectual property. This is, whatever this thing is, you need to stop using it immediately. Otherwise, we're going to take legal action. Or if you have a lawyer, they can send a cease and desist. There are some cases where that is absolutely the most appropriate action. But with this particular person, because I think I understand what she's saying here, she has this, here's what I feel comfortable sharing, even though this is anonymous, is she's created this type of art that probably isn't trademarkable, or I don't think there's a way to trademark this type of art. I don't think, but that could be something that you look into, that other people probably saw. They're like, oh, that's really cool, and started offering very similar art. And then it's not hard to see like, oh, this is what they price it as. And, because this person said, ideas, verbiage, entire business model. So here's the thing with stuff like that. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do. And if you watch Shark Tank, this is a really big deal. And this is just a normal part of business, right? And you'll see people come in there and they're like, okay, what you're doing isn't patentable. So the issue with that is they have to rush to market, because there's always going to be imposters who are doing the same thing and trying to undercut the pricing. This is just what happens. So in this case, I feel like that's probably what you're dealing with. So what I want to say to you, if it's not something that you're able to patent or copyright or whatever the case may be, you just need to, two different angles to look at this. Number one, if this is somebody that you know, and they are, in any case, and this is for anybody who's listening, maybe you know somebody who's like took something of yours and, is trying to kind of bank off of your ideas. If it makes sense to reach out to them and have a conversation, I say do it. Why not? Be like, hey, this looks very similar to what I'm doing. Let's talk about it. Is there a way that maybe you could make this your own? I see nothing wrong in having that conversation if you have that type of relationship, or if you see the person and you can reach out to them, fine. But for something like this, where it's like, okay, there's really no leg to stand on here. It's just, you have a really cool idea. There's no way to copyright it or patent it. There's really, people are going to start businesses all the time. And it might seem like your business model, it might be, it might not be. There's really no way to know, or nothing to really do about it. So in that case, this is one of those things that you just unfortunately have to be, I don't want to say okay with, but you have to be able to handle it, right? All of us are here to be successful, right? All of us have big business goals, and a lot of us, when it comes to our bigger business goals, that includes growing a bigger audience and being seen by more people. If you are being seen by more people and being exposed to more people, more is more. You're opening yourself up to more of the right people, and people that want to buy from you and support your business and love your art and appreciate it for what it is and the hard work that you've put into it. And then there's more people also included in that group who are going to be a little too inspired by your stuff, who might want to rip off your stuff. There's going to be a mix of everybody in there. So for you to be able to handle being exposed to more of the right people, you have to also be able to be exposed to more of the quote wrong people, or more people who might seem like they are ripping you off. So it's not that you just lie down and let people walk on you, or that, again, you somehow get to the point where you're excited about people ripping you off, because I don't think, especially when it comes to art and things that you really put your heart in, you'll never get there, right? But what you can do is not waste too much of your energy and your time and focus to where it is taking away from your art and from the people that are there for you, right? We've all experienced that situation where all of a sudden, whether it be like a negative comment on Instagram, or a troll, or somebody taking an idea from you, where all of a sudden, before you know it, you've spent a full ass day, or in some cases longer, just angry over this particular instance, to the point that you're not creating, you're not focused on the people who are there ready for you right now. It's taking away. That's what we don't want to do. You don't want to waste too much energy. And what you need to understand is that people may be able to rip off your art or rip off your verbiage or your words or your ideas in some way. Anybody can do that. But the one thing that they can't rip off, the one thing that they can't copy and paste and that they can't fake is you and your energy. And a big reason why people are buying your art is because of the heart behind it, because the energy behind it, and because of you. So people can all day long take my captions. It does not hold the same energy as me putting it out into the world. It will not perform the same way. And if it does, you're just attracting in a bunch of people who, I don't know. It's not the same. It's not the same. So there are some things in life that cannot be controlled. This is one of them. So it's not that we look away. It's not, again, that we just lie down and let people take advantage. There are some things that you can take action, but what we don't want to do under both circumstances is let it take away from what you're currently doing, because you're going to get more ideas. You're going to continue to get better. And these people, usually they'll get bored and they'll be, on to the next thing before you even know it anyway. So that is my advice for you. And I'm sorry that that's happening, because I understand that it is very frustrating. Okay. The third question, how to hold high vibe energy when money isn't coming in for months. So this one is tough to answer ish, because obviously I don't know, okay, does that mean literally no money at all? Are we trying to sell? I need to know more pieces to the puzzle, but I have lots to say, so I'm just going to give it all to you. So the very first thing that I would do is look at the offers that I'm putting out and the amount that I'm selling. Are you aligned to the offers that you're putting out? Do you feel good about them? Go back and listen to the episode. What is it called? I think I titled it, I'm putting it out as I literally recorded it right before I recorded this one, but I think the title is going to be something like 6 money blockers that you're probably overlooking, because I talk about this and I think it's going to help you. But oftentimes when our offers aren't selling, it's either because our energy isn't behind them, or we're not selling them enough, or our audience for some reason isn't in a place where they're ready to buy from us. There could be a mix of things going on here. But the first thing I would look at is okay, how do I feel about the offers that I'm putting out? Do they excite me? Do I have my energy behind them? Do I believe in them? Do I believe in what they can do for the people that will join or can join them? And then, are you selling? Are you continuing to put out new offers and sticking with your way and your mode of launching? So when I launch things, it's at least going to be a week or 2 weeks max. So even if I'm a week and a half in and I've sold nothing, I'm going to commit to that 2 weeks, because I've experienced more times than I can count where a good amount of sales come in the last few days, because finally people are hearing it at the rate that they need to hear to want to buy. So I would first look at those things. Are you selling? And are you selling the things you actually want to sell? Because if not, we've got to clean that up. You are going to block yourself and have a really hard time calling in money when you hate the things that you're putting out, or if the price point isn't right, or if you're only putting them out for a day or two and then stopping because you feel like nobody wants it, because sales aren't looking the way that you want them to look. So that's number one. The second thing that I would say here is ebbs in business, one, are normal. I've shared this before, but when I was speaking on stage in South Carolina a couple weeks ago, I showed my business sales each year since I started business. So there were 5, it was a bar graph with 5 bars starting at 2018. And it was like this really beautiful upward trajectory. It started at negative 5,000 and then 190K and then 290K and then 506 and then 764, right? So it was like this beautiful upward trajectory of revenue for each year. But what I said is like, what's so funny is like the amount of ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys and like this insane roller coaster of dips that make up each of those bars. So ebbs in business are normal. And I fully believe are initiations into building your own personal belief and power. What does that mean? This means that you are not looking for outside validation and outside proof outside of you to believe that you are good enough and that you are good at what you do. So what I mean by this is if you're in an ebb, right? And what I mean by an ebb is like, I don't want to say here, like if you've never gotten a sale and you've been at it for 2 years, that you just need to believe in yourself. Like clearly there's something wrong here. And I want to be very clear. There are so many factors that can and will affect your sales. So let's say all things are consistent, right? Or right. You have your offers are good. Your prices are good. You know how to sell. All of those things, all those boxes are checked. Those have to be checked first. And then if this is a period, so you said money isn't coming in for months, then I would check in on, this might be a lesson for you to like, are you somebody who, if the money isn't flowing in, that automatically means that your belief and your personal confidence also drops with your sales. Do you see what I'm saying? So I experienced this a lot in my business. In the beginning, when money started finally coming in, I was like, yes, I figured it out. I'm so excited. I know what I'm doing. And then I would have like a really crappy month and I'd be questioning everything. I'd be like, crap, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I suck. I'm not as good as so-and-so. It was a glitch in the matrix, whatever. And then all of a sudden sales would kind of be up again and it'd be like, yes, I'm on top of the world. Right. So like, my mood and my energy was very much dictated by outside circumstances, by the amount of DMs of people inquiring to work with me and the amount of sales. And the issue with this is not sustainable, right? This is a sure path to burnout, to a loony bin, to like that. It's just not a good time if you're constantly, and also like if we think about the highest good for ourselves and the highest good of all, it's not that you're in your highest good to base your worth and your belief in yourself on outside circumstances, right? Then we're always going to be looking for validation and for affirmation from other people around us. And that, to me, that's not for our highest good. That's not what it's meant to be. Another thing that came up for me as I was reading this is like, okay, are you somebody who needs that outside validation? Can you practice if you really believe in what you put out in your work, which I know the person who sent in this question, and I know like, what you're doing. And I know that you know that, but are you allowing this to waver because sales aren't coming in? I would for sure clean that up if I were you. For those of you who relate to this, if you're a mentor or a coach, like your part of your business model is helping other people build businesses or do what you do, this is also strengthening you as a mentor and as a coach. Why? Because if you don't know how to navigate lower months, and if you don't know how to practice holding your own personal power in spite of what outside circumstances are, how can you help other people do the same, right? When my clients are having a really crappy month and they're feeling really down, I can have their back and I can relate to them and give them sound advice, because I've been through that plenty of times as a business owner and came out the other side. So I know how to support them and how to hold them through that. So that's another angle to look at this too. This also is an absolute call to scale or start the process of scaling your business. This was a huge eye opener for me last year. So I had this huge, this incredible year last year in the first half, the first 3 quarters. And then the end of the year, everything just halted because of personal reasons. And very little was scaled in my business. And what I realized was, shoot, if I stop performing, so does my business. This is a problem, right? So we want to build businesses that don't fully require us working every single minute of every day or every single day, right? That can allow us to take some time off, but also allow for ebbs in businesses and us not to freak out and go straight to scarcity mode because we need every single dollar that comes through, right? And every business is going to be different. There's, different levels to it, but I personally don't think it's ever too early to start scaling your business so that even if you're having a lower month in real time, you can still have money coming through from other types of offers, from payment plans, from, whatever your other ways of bringing in money, or whether that be investments or, ads, or, whatever types of or forms of revenue that you want to add on to your business. So I think it's a huge call for that. And then, see, I told you there was a lot that I wanted to say here, just because it could be so many different things. Another thing is, this is absolutely an opportunity to have gratitude for what is there. And maybe you did mean exactly $0 are coming in. I know sometimes I say that when $10,000 has come in, or in some cases $20,000 months, and I'm like, nothing is coming in because it doesn't match the goal that I'm going for. So I don't know if you're saying this a little tongue in cheek, or if you literally mean no money has come in for months, but we can always, always, always find gratitude for what is there. Even if that's a partner's money from their job, or, past clients or whatever, however you can dip into gratitude and get into the energy of gratitude is only going to help you in calling in more money. This is the fastest path to opening money portals and paths to money, or however you want to think of that, is through gratitude. So I know it can be really easy to, once it's been a while that you feel like money's not flowing, to dip into that scarcity and freak out a little bit. That is the last thing that you want to do, because that's just going to perpetuate the problem. So any way that you can feel gratitude for what's currently there, for your kids, for your life, for anything at all. It could be a cup of freaking coffee. We want to feel those feelings and expand them as much as possible, as often as possible, because that is an energetic match to abundance and money. And that's going to help you call more in. And then the last thing I would say here too, and a way to check in with yourself with this, is if the money was there, if you were making the amount of money that you wanted to make, what would you be doing? How would you be feeling? What decisions would you be making? What offers would you be putting out? How present would you be with your kids? This will always show me a contrast in what I would be doing and what I'm currently doing. Always. This is a sure way that I check in with myself anytime that I feel like I'm dipping into a little bit of scarcity or lack, maybe I'm overworking or whatever. I'll typically ask myself, okay, if I had X amount in the bank right now, or, if the mastermind was full right now or whatever, if I had X amount of people in my membership and I had X amount of money coming in every single month, no matter what decision would I make right now? Would I take the day off? Would I book the trip? I realize some of these things require money, and you may not have that money right now, but you can take a day off, or you can be present with your kids. You can find joy. You can feel good, versus like constantly stressing. You certainly wouldn't be not being present with your kids because you're stressing about money if the money was there. So there are things like that you can check in and clean up. And that right there is going to make a difference just in your energy and what you're attracting in at that point too. So again, that it's such a loaded question, and there's so many factors that can affect our sales, but I feel like we just covered a lot of them. Okay. And I'm sending you all of the money vibes. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is the question about wanting to possibly work with somebody, like as a mentor, investing in somebody's programs or trainings or mastermind or something, but worried that it's going to influence, like that person's energy and ideas is going to influence yours. So let me read this person's question again. She said, I've been feeling limited in what resources I can absorb of yours and of other people doing what I aspire to do. So it sounds like she's also wanting to be a business coach like me. And she put in parentheses like courses, trainings, programs. She said, I do not currently have all the answers. I see myself so clearly teaching what worked for me once I'm at the table with you. I just have a lot of fear around not wanting to absorb too much of other people's strategies so that I could one day teach my own processes with integrity. Yeah. So she's saying, I want to work with you, or I want to work with somebody and get support because I don't have all the answers, but I want to be able to teach and create my own processes with integrity so that they're hers and not mine. She said, I'm not sure this is a limiting belief or a valid reason not to get help with your resources that I know would speed up my own process. I'm wondering if others in your audience would feel the same. Okay. So, and it's such a powerful question. And this tells me so much about this person. Just that there's already so much integrity there that you likely would not have to worry about this because you already have this self-awareness. But I can absolutely speak to this because this is something that I have also experienced and something that I have worried about. So let me tell my story. When I found my current mentor, Melanie, I found her it was like summer of 2021. And I first got in like one of her programs. It blew my mind. I got in another one of her programs and I was like, okay, this person, she's where I want to be. I love how she teaches. I love her heart. I want to be in her world. So I joined her membership. And then while I was in her membership, I decided to take the leap and join her mastermind because I was like, okay. And very same as how this question was posed. It was like, I'm ready to continue to grow my own business in my way, but I have questions. I know I don't know all the things and I want to speed up. And I understand the value of sitting at the right tables and working with people who are already where you want to be and understanding that it's just a way to speed up your own process, I one time compared like growing a business to traveling to a specific location. So like we all, I want to grow my business to, let's say, 7 figures, right? So there are many paths to that could get me there. Just like if I wanted to drive to California right there are many different roads and modalities that can get me from where I am to California, right? So I think of coaching like I think of different ways of traveling. So I could, like me growing my business to 7 figures by myself feels like driving to California in a car, just like from where I am across the country to California. That's what that feels like. Me joining a high-level mastermind with women who are already doing what I want to do, or who are also working toward the type of business that I want to grow. In a mastermind with a woman who already has the type of business and lifestyle that I aspire to have, that feels like taking an airplane to California. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's just speeding up that process. So I understood this. I've experienced this in different ways. I understand the value. So for that reason, I joined her mastermind. I took that leap. And since then, I'm now on my second year in her mastermind. Now, at some point, I will say probably midway through the mastermind, I stopped taking my mentor's programs. So as part of her mastermind, and I do the same thing, as part of her mastermind, you get access to all of her programs. You get, pretty much everything with the mastermind. And that's what I do too. If you're in my mastermind, you get all of my programs, you get all of my resources. But again, like I said, like about, 6 months in or so, I just stopped taking her stuff, not because it wasn't good anymore, but because there were some things that I would hear that I'm like, dang, I kind of had an idea to put out something similar, or like, dang, I don't know how I could ever say that specific thing better than what she just said. Like me trying to come up with my own way to say that thing would just, in my mind, always suck, because I just heard it said in the most elite way possible. And instead of these programs helping me and supporting me, I found that they were kind of deterring me a little bit and holding me back a little bit, because I felt like my ideas weren't as good. And I just started overthinking my own stuff. Also, it was really easy to kind of, when you see somebody and you're in somebody's world so much, it's really easy to not have their vibe rub off on you. And in some ways that's okay. And in other ways, especially when you really want to put out your own stuff, you want to be cautious of it at least. So the solution for me is like, I'm just not going to take her programs unless there's one very specific that I want to take. So with my particular mentor, she puts out a lot of programs that aren't related to business that I would never put out myself with my business model. So that feels fun. But anything businessy that she puts out, that I feel like I also would put out something similar, I just don't take, because I don't want to run the risk of sounding too much like her, or, anything like that wouldn't be in integrity with what I want to do. But to me, this doesn't take away from the fact that I'm still working with her, that I still have access to her, because to me, the value of being in her world isn't part of it is absolutely having access to programs, sure. But the main part that I'm valuing is the access to her. The fact that I can reach out to her at any time of the day and ask any question that I want to ask related to anything at all. And she's going to give personalized support based on me and my business. That is the value. The value is the table with the other women playing really big that I can tap into, and the energy that I can tap into at any time to remind me what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and to see proof of other people doing this the way that I want to. That's the value for me. So I guess my answer with this for you is, you don't have to take all the programs, for sure. I also think just this self-awareness is going to take you so far anyway. Just even realizing that this is something you want to avoid, you will do that. And also realizing that there's a big difference between, hearing somebody's process for doing something that you might teach, and having close proximity access to them and personalized feedback on all things, not just business, but life in general. That was another thing that I realized too. is like, I definitely use Melanie and the courses and the mentors that I invest in for business reasons. But at some point, you know how to run a business, right? Like I know how to run a business. That I will always have questions that come up from time to time, but I'm not investing in these things because I don't know what I'm doing. Oftentimes I know what I'm doing. It's like the other things that I have questions about, like, hey, what about, what if this comes up with your team member? What do you do? Or like, my husband's, doesn't want me to or is acting this certain way, and it's funking up my vibe. How would you go about it? Like these questions become so focused on life and other things versus just business too. What I found, like with higher level mentorship. So I don't I don't think it's a limiting belief at all that you feel this way. I think it's a really good sign, but I personally would not let this stop you from working with somebody and getting a seat on that plane to get you to a destination faster, because you already have the awareness that you don't want to do this. And you can also, again, be mindful about the things that you immerse yourself in that person's container. Okay. Moving on to the personal questions that were asked. The first one, tips for transitioning from 1 to 2 babies. Well, I'm a big proponent for help. So for me, since I knew that I didn't want to miss a lot of work and that I still want to continue running my business in the way that I like to run it, with the amount of support and the things and the hours, it was a no-brainer and a non-negotiable that we needed a nanny for Rhett. So Cruz has a nanny on the days that he doesn't go to his pre-K school. And then Rhett also has his own nanny Monday through Friday while me and Chris work. And I'm still nursing. So I'm able to, I'm here. I'm able, I'm always within arm's reach. I'm here all the time unless I'm out, and then Chris is usually here. But that is just a non-negotiable for us, and that's allowed me to continue to do the things that light me up and will grow my business. So that was big for me. But I would say, just like any support at all that you're going to need just to stay sane, whether that be a house cleaner, anything. It could be anything, getting your groceries delivered, a massage here and there, like anything that's going to have your back. I would start getting clear on what that is and start looking into that now. Let's see. With this one, with Rhett, I'm not as stressed. I feel like in my experience with Cruz, because I was a first-time mom, it's like you don't really know what you're doing. Everything seems so serious and like, oh gosh, you have to do everything perfect. Like, I don't know. Just everything felt it had to be by the book. And there just felt like a lot more stress. And now with baby number 2, you've done it before. It definitely feels a lot more chill, which is nice. And one of those things, I don't know if this is a tip or something to avoid, but like one of those things is sleeping. This is probably something to avoid for sure, but because I'm working again, and there are things that I need to be doing during the day, I had very little energy and motivation to try and sleep train Rhett or like get up multiple times a night. His room's upstairs, so like he still continues to sleep in our room. And we've even started co-sleeping, which some people are like, yeah, that's amazing. And other people are like, no, you're creating a monster. So I don't really know which one is right or wrong, but he'll sleep for however long he sleeps, and then we get him up and we bring him to bed with us, just because that's the only way that we can get like consistent sleep. Otherwise he's going to be waking up, throughout the night like babies do. So that might be I don't know, like it's working for us because I'm sleeping, but also my baby's in the bed. So I don't know how awful it's going to be to break him of that habit when he gets a little bit older and he can move upstairs. So in a way that's working, but I don't know what the long-term ramifications of that is. So that's probably not a tip. I think that's something you might want to consider, like what you want to do there. I'm not stressing about it just because it's like, we'll figure it out. Having baby number 2 feels a lot like, we'll figure it out, because we have, and we did, and we will. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I have any other tips. I'm trying to think of things that we've done differently. One thing that I did differently with Rhett that I don't even think was a thing when I had Cruz was these mobile pumps. What's it called? LVs. That's what they're called. They're called the LVs. Those have been a freaking game changer. I didn't pump with Cruz because I hated the pump. So to me, they're worth every single dollar. I know that some of them get a bad rap, and a lot of people complain about them because they think that they don't work, but you have to find the right size phalange. So if you don't know what a phalange is the thing that like actually goes on your boob around your nipple that suctions, that can actually like get the milk out. If that's the wrong size, it's not going to suction. So it's not a machine problem. It's the wrong size. It's not suctioning properly. So with the LV, I had to buy a different size that actually fit for me. So just keep that in mind, but that has been an absolute game changer. One thing that I did wrong with Cruz was because I wasn't pumping, we didn't try, and we waited too long to give him a bottle. So by the time we tried to give him a bottle, he wouldn't take to it. He only wanted me. So for a full ass year, all I did was like solely nurse with him, except when he started eating some food too. And that was a huge mistake. So that's been a game changer. And then I think the only other tip would be just like going more with the flow with the baby, and like bringing the baby into your life, and not like, I don't know, like if you want to travel, go travel. If you want to go out to dinner, go out to dinner. I think exposing your baby to more of these lifestyle things that you actually do with your family, and not waiting for the baby to be a little bit older, I think just gets the baby used to going with your lifestyle and growing accustomed to your lifestyle versus, molding your lifestyle for the baby. We did that more with Rhett. We just, he's just part of life. He goes along with us to all the things, and he's used to it. He's used to being at a restaurant. He's used to being in the car when he needs to be in the car, which has been cool. So I don't know if those are helpful. I'm certainly not a mom pro, but I appreciate you asking the question. Okay. The next question, favorite dress stores for summer, like wedding guest dresses. So what I recommend is go follow those influencers that I mentioned earlier, Loverly Gray and Cella Jane Blonde, or Cella Blog, or Cella Jane Blog, however you pronounce that. My favorite out of the two, and this is where, like, hands down, I get all of my, especially if I ever need a dress or anything, I will go to one of these two and go look at their blog and their posts, because they will always post something that's my style. Out of the two, I would say Becky is more of my style, and hits more of like what I want every single time is Becky. But Brittany does an amazing job too. It's just like not all my style. But anytime that I need something for an event, I will go to one of them and I will shop their links every single time. Okay, and then the last question. How did you and your hubs meet? I'm trying to break a toxic relationship cycle, and seeing what looks like healthy couples gives me hope. You said once that you used to think you were too picky, and I relate. Okay. My advice to you is do not settle ever, 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 ever when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your business, when it comes to your lifestyle, when it comes to anything that is going to take up energy and time in your life. Do not settle. The thing, the person, what you want is out there. How you get it to come to you is you getting clear on what it is and understanding that you are fully worthy and deserving of that thing and you can have that thing. It's just a matter of time. That is how you call it in. So I relate to this because I used to also think I was too picky. I saw as a child, very unhealthy relationship patterns modeled my whole life from mental and physical abuse to toxicity to everything you can imagine. I just saw like the worst of the worst modeled as a kid. So I thought I was cursed. I thought I was bound to repeat the same patterns. I thought that I for sure was only going to be attracted to toxic type relationships because that's what I saw my whole life. And I just like for a really long time, I thought that that was just what was available for me. And that, I don't know, it was almost as if like I knew healthier relationships were out there, but I didn't even think I wanted that. I thought like, I'm always going to want the toxic guy. I'm always going to be I don't want a good guy. Like I didn't think I was ever even attracted to that. So I didn't even think I was really settling. I thought that's what I wanted. And I was just a sicko. I was wrong. Turns out I just needed to grow up a little bit. Turns out I needed to experience the things that I experienced so that I knew what to appreciate and I knew what to avoid. And yeah, so I fully believe you are not too picky at all. There's a reason why you want what you want, but what you do need is to realize that you can have it and that you are worthy of it and you're not broken. But you do need to be patient and you do need to make space for that thing to come in. So again, insert relationships here, insert business, insert whatever it is. So how me and Chris met, I'll tell you like a little bit of backstory. I was in what we could absolutely call a toxic relationship for a few years. It was very on and off. And it finally just got to the point where I was just so exhausted and over it and just not even heartbroken anymore, just like fed up. I was just tired. I was like, this ain't it. There's no way this can be it. I just know it. And I thought for a very long time that it was. And then finally, like, for me, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, this is stupid. This is boring. And I'm just tired. And with that, I was just tired of playing the games. So it was like, I don't even know how many years in, but I remember I was at work and I came across an article that was talking about basically how to like manifest your dream partner. And how this one chick did it for herself. And what she did was she wrote a letter to herself talking about, it was either a letter to her partner, like her dream partner, or it was a letter to herself talking about the dream partner. Either way, it's like a letter that's where you describe your dream relationship and who this person is. And you can talk about their looks. You can talk about whatever, like you can get as specific as you want. And I remember I was so like impressed enough to try this myself because the chick, she was like, this worked for me. I met my husband and whatever. So I was like, well, shit, I'll try anything at this point. So that night I went home and damn it, I've looked for this letter. I cannot tell you how much I've looked for this letter. It must have been thrown away somehow, but I wrote a letter to myself describing the man of my dreams and how he treated me and how he loved me and how I loved him and how attracted I was to him and everything that I wanted that I didn't think was possible. I always thought it had to be either or. I had to be like wildly attracted to him, but had to sacrifice like the healthy relationship part, or I could have the healthy relationship and not really be that attracted. Like, I was so limited in my thinking. So in this letter, I was like, all the things. It just got super clear. And then I made this space in a way because, like, if you were to ask Chris, he'd be like, no, you didn't. Because it was like up until I met him that I was still like kind of going back and forth with my other relationship. But in my mind, I was checked out, like fully checked out. I was just like, it was a means to an end. I knew I would eventually meet somebody else. And in my heart had moved on from this person fully disconnected. So looking back, I had made enough space to finally call in somebody new so that whenever I called in somebody new, I wouldn't sabotage the relationship and go back to the toxic relationship. So anyway, a couple months go by from, I don't know how much time went by since when I wrote the letter and when I met Chris, my husband. But it was not long. It was maybe two months or 3 months, maybe tops. But I will never forget it. I was at the house. I had a couple of roommates at the time, and I was at our house, and we lived in a condo, and I was upstairs in my room folding clothes, and I got distracted. And, as you do when you're folding clothes, I pulled up my phone and started scrolling through Facebook. And this girl that I'm friends with on Facebook posted a picture at a Titans game with Chris, and I had never seen him before. And it just stopped my scroll. I was just, for some reason, so drawn to this picture and to him. And I was like, who the hell is that? I've never seen him before. He's freaking gorgeous. Also, I was living in Knoxville at the time, and this person that I was following was in Nashville, and I was very seriously considering moving to Nashville. So I was like, well, shoot, if he's in Nashville and I'm eventually going to be in Nashville, we should be friends. So being the thirsty chick that I was, I friend requested him. And that's it. I didn't message him. I didn't anything. I was just like, YOLO, let go and let God, Hail Mary, just, friend requested him. And didn't think anything about it. And it wasn't the next day, but I think it was the day after that. So like 2 days later, I got a DM from him. And he slid into my DMs and he said, Allie, don't recognize the name or the face. Do we know each other? And I made a smart ass comment, and the rest is history. We talked for a few months back and forth. And then so that was like in October when we started messaging back and forth. And then in December, he took me on our first date. Our first 2 dates weren't that great, which, it's just a whole other story I could tell another day. And we decided the third date was the last time we were going to go out. If it worked, great. If it didn't work, we're moving on with our lives. And it worked. So I married him. But yeah, that's how we met. But I will say, like, this relationship with him, the fact that, it's everything I could want. He is everything I could want or dream of in a partner. We have such a healthy relationship and dynamic, and just everything about it is, it far exceeds what I ever thought was possible, especially as somebody, again, who grew up in a very toxic environment and saw very toxic relationship situations and circumstances modeled. So I just proved to myself that it's possible. And if I can do it, you can do it. So hang in there, be picky as hell. You're not too picky. But also don't, I guess, like, if you were to take it from my situation, and take some advice from my situation, don't judge a first date by its cover, because I can imagine there are a lot of people who go on first dates are like, that was awful. And not that ours was awful, like nothing bad happened at all. It just, like, our dynamic wasn't, I don't know. It was weird. It was like our relationship was very slow burn. It didn't have that, like, crazy, that crazy, I don't want to say attraction, because I was he's hot as hell. But I don't know. It wasn't like that instant, like, crazy about each other type thing. It just wasn't like that. It was very, very slow burn. And I'm so thankful that I put in the time and the effort, and I didn't sabotage it by looking for, all the butterflies, and, well, the butterflies were there, but, like, that instant attraction, the fireworks, the whatever, the spark that you think has to be there. Because it wasn't like that. And it's been the best thing in my life. And there's not one thing that I've settled for. So that's just my situation and my story. So anyway, that's all that I have for you guys today. These are so fun, and we have so many more questions. So we'll definitely break these up in more episodes. So be on the lookout for that. We might stagger them a little bit instead of doing them back to back. So if you ask a question and I didn't answer it today, I will answer it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you here next week. Bye.